Never, ever think about something else when you should be thinking about the power of incentives. Charlie Munger. Hello, welcome back. If people want to join in, I do have a Zoom link, so you can go ahead and join me in this topic. So I just kind of made it a little bit easy for people to see. I was talking to my army earlier today, and somehow we just got into this conversation. I saw in the news that Dollar General was paying its employees to get the COVID-19 vaccination. There's this incentive, right? So I wanted to look more into it because it's like the first thing that pops into my mind is, shouldn't not dying from COVID-19 be the incentive in the first place? And so here we go. This is the topic. Why most people won't get COVID-19 vaccinations. I think, unfortunately, most people will get COVID-19 vaccinations, but it won't be because they need it. You don't. If people really needed something, they wouldn't need incentives in order to get it. The need for it should be the incentive first and foremost. But if you study psychology at all, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You provide incentives and you can go ahead and modify behavior, which I'm going to get to an article which I liked. And I mean, I just found it really quick, so it's something you can watch. So what I did is I just wanted to do a general search. It was like, hey, is that the only incentive out there? What's going on? So we've got Dollar General will get workers to get COVID-19 vaccine. Here's Denver Channel, as workers refuse to get COVID-19 vaccine, some being offered incentives. Should the government pay people to get vaccinated? Some economists think so. Okay, you got health. The main reason that they ask is, let's ask the economists if people should get vaccinated, or the government should pay people to get vaccinated. It's pretty funny. AC Worth vaccine incentive. I don't know what AC Worth is. That's from Fox 5 Atlanta. $200 gift cards, it seems. Let's see. LA City firefighters are given incentives to get COVID-19 vaccine. Nichols Hills offers incentives for city employees who get the COVID-19 vaccine. This is in KFOR, Oklahoma City. I mean, I think what we're going to see is more incentives for COVID-19 vaccinations. And so if you look above my video, you'll see, the main reason, at least the number one reason I put down, is they don't need it. For example, you're live, right? It's so if you didn't get COVID-19, your thinking is, well, I don't need it. I didn't get COVID-19. Or here's another one. I got COVID-19, but I didn't die. I don't think I need it. Right? You're still alive, so you don't need COVID-19 vaccination. Obviously, maybe if you died from COVID-19, you might have needed the vaccination. But since you didn't get COVID-19, or you got COVID-19, you didn't die from it, well, obviously you don't need it. So people just aren't really scared of it. I mean, there's this whole hoopla for almost a whole year of lockdowns, and it's like, well, there's really, I'm okay. So yeah, number one, most people won't get vaccinations, well, because they don't need it. So if people don't need it, well, you got to incentivize it for them to want it. So the number two reason that they won't get COVID-19 vaccinations, well, they won't. No, so they don't want it. As much as people probably are okay with getting vaccinated, that they're all for being vaccinated. They don't want polio, they don't want smallpox, all that jazz. You know, that's what they're fed into. And but I think there's so much about it, like the topic has changed so much as in regards to vaccinations. Is you know, say vaccinations work. Why did they start adding in all these things that are harmful to your body? And if you don't trust YouTubers, whatever, you know, you can just go to CDC, FDA, or vaccines.gov, whatever, and look at the vaccine ingredients, and you can just see for yourself. They will name some things differently just to make you think, oh, these are fine. These are just preservatives and stabilizers and, you know, all these things that are in it. And you can just compare them. I mean, everyone should do their own research on it. But it's like, hey, look, these are things that they list. I mean, aluminum salts. Why would you need aluminum salts? Aluminum's, I thought that's bad for you. Gelatin. Why do you need gelatin? I mean, most vegetarians, vegans are going to want to do it. Formaldehyde. You know, what's funny is common ingredients in this one. This is vaccines.gov. They'll say, is the formaldehyde used in some vaccines dangerous? Of course, they're going to say no. But at first, when I read that, is formaldehyde used in vaccines? Obviously, yes. But anyways, you can just keep looking at all the things like mercury, whatever form of mercury. What form of mercury is safe, right? You can say, well, the thimerosal has a different form of mercury than what causes mercury poisoning, etc. It's like, oh yeah, that just sounds much better. We got a safer form of mercury like that's ever existed. Anyways, there's just a lot of things that go into it. When they first came up with vaccines, do you think that they put any of this stuff in there? I don't think so. They just got what was needed, right? All these weren't really needed. Of course, we can't really go back and see what was originally in the early vaccines until they started adding all this junk to it. So yeah, number one is they don't need it. Two, they don't want it. Now I'm gonna add in a third one. There's currently no what's that term called? Like if you no punishment for not getting getting it. Yeah, let's just say it that way. Now we're gonna go on to this article that I just came up with. I mean, it's just do a just search on incentives, right? In either psychology or incentives, like government incentives, all of this stuff. And here's just a blog FS blog back in 2017. And here it says, incentives are what drive human behavior. Understanding incentives is the key to understanding people. Conversely, failing to recognize the importance of incentives often lead us to make major errors. I mean, it's pretty simple. I think there's going to be examples, and you can understand examples just in, things that have happened to you in your own life, right? Why did you decide to work hard, like stay an extra hour or two when work should be over? Well, because the incentive is, well, I want a bonus, or I want a pay raise, or there's a new opening for a higher position. So, maybe during my review, I can get that new position. Incentives are everywhere. Anyways, I'm just gonna keep going here. According to Charlie Munger, I don't know how to say his last name. I don't even know who he is. There are only a few forces more powerful than incentives. In his speech, The Psychology of Human Misjudgment, he reflects on how the power of incentives never disappoints him. He says, well, I think I've been in the top 5% of my age cohort all my life in understanding the power of incentives, and all my life I've underestimated it. And every year passes by, I get some surprise that pushes my limit a little farther. And then the blogger goes, sometimes the solution to a behavior problem is simply to revisit incentives and make sure they align with the desired goal. Munger talks about the Federal Express, which is one of his favorite examples of the powerhouse of incentives. He says, the heart and soul of the integrity of the system is that all the packages have to be shifted rapidly in one central location each night, and the system has no integrity if the whole shift cannot be done fast. And Federal Express had one hell of a time getting the thing to work, and they tried moral suasion, they tried everything in the world, and finally somebody had got the happy thought that they were paying the night shift by the hour, and that maybe if they paid them by the shift, the system would work better. And lo and behold, that solution worked. So there's incentives for people to change behavior, and that's what got them to accept something, right? It wasn't through moral persuasion. It wasn't, well, you should get COVID-19 vaccination. That way you can't give COVID-19 to someone else. That would be like the moral persuasion that government would try to force onto you. Blog says, if you're trying to change a behavior, reason will only take you so far. Reflecting on another example where misaligned incentives hampered the sales of a superior product, Munger said, early in the history of Xerox, Joe Wilson, who was then in the government, had to go back to Xerox because he couldn't understand how their better new machine was selling so poorly in relation to their older and inferior machine. Of course, when he got there, he found out that the commission arrangement with the salesman gave a tremendous incentive to the inferior machine. And it says here, ignoring incentives almost never works out well. Thinking about the incentives of others is necessary to create win-win relationships. You can turn to psychology to obtain a more structured and thorough understanding of how incentives shape our actions. The science of reinforcement talks about B.F. Skinner, professor of psychology at Harvard from 1958 to 1974. Basically, he's reinforcement model, pretty much. Positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, rewards, and punishment. Saying that punishment is like the least effective. Positive reinforcement is the best, and then if that doesn't work, you give some negative reinforcement. But you really don't want to go to punishment right off the bat, because that rarely turns out well. Since this is a 9-minute read, I don't know why I always go off on segues, but I'm just going to go ahead and read the article and not just go off by myself. Skinner, unlike his contemporaries, refused to hypothesize about what happened on the inside, what people or animals thought and felt, and preferred to focus on what we can observe. To him, focusing on how much people ate it meant more than focusing on subjective measures like how hungry people were or how much pleasure they got from eating. He wanted to find out how environmental variables affected behavior, and believed that behavior is shaped by its consequences. If we don't like the consequences of an action we've taken, we're less likely to do it again. If we do like the consequences, we're more likely to do it again. That assumption is the basis of operant conditioning, a type of learning in which the strength of a behavior is modified by its consequences, such as reward or punishment. One of Skinner's most important inventions was the operant conditioning chamber, also known as the Skinner box, which was used to study the effects of reinforcers on lab animals. The rats in the box had to figure out how to do a task, such as pushing a lever, that would reward them with food. Such an automated system allowed Skinner and thousands of successors to study conditioned behavior in a controlled setting. What years of studies on reinforcement have revealed is that consistency and timing play important roles in shaping new behaviors. Psychologists argue that the best way for us to learn complex behaviors is via continuous reinforcement, in which the desired behavior is reinforced every time it is performed. If you want to teach your dog a new trick, for example, it's smart to reward him for every correct response. At the very beginning of the learning curve, your failure to immediately respond to a positive behavior might be misinterpreted as a sign of incorrect behavior from the dog's perspective. Intermittent reinforcement is reinforcement that is given only some of the times that the desired behavior occurs, and it can be done according to various schedules, some predictable and some not. See scheduling reinforcement below. Intermittent reinforcement is argued to be the most efficient way to maintain an already learned behavior. This is due to three reasons. First, rewarding the behavior takes time away from the behavior's continuation. Paying a worker after each piece is assembled on the assembly line simply does not make sense. Second, intermittent reinforcement is better from an economic perspective. Not only is it cheaper not to reward every instance of a desired behavior, but by making the rewards unpredictable, you trigger excitement and thus get an increase in response without increasing the amount of reinforcement. Intermittent reinforcement is how casinos work. They want people to gamble, but they can't afford to have people win large amounts very often. Finally, intermittent reinforcement can induce resistance to extinction, stopping the behavior when reinforcement is removed. Consider the example of resistance outlined in the textbook Psychology Core Concepts. So, imagine two gamblers and two slot machines. One machine inexplicably pays off on every trial, and another, a more usual machine, pays on an unpredictable intermittent schedule. Now suppose that both devices suddenly stop paying. Which gambler will catch on first? Most of us would probably guess it right. The one who has been rewarded for each pull of a lever. Continuous reinforcement will quickly notice the change, while a gambler who has won only occasionally on partial reinforcement may continue playing unrewarded for a long time. Scheduling reinforcement. Intermittent reinforcement can be used on various schedules, each with its own degree of effectiveness and situations to which it can be appropriately applied. Ratio schedules are based on the number of responses, the amount of work done, whereas interval schedules are based on the amount of time spent. Fixed ratio schedules are used when you pay your employees based on the amount of work they do. Fixed ratio schedules are common in freelancing, where contractors are paid on a piecework basis. Managers like fixed ratio schedules because the response to reinforcement is usually very high. If you want to get paid, you do the work. Variable ratio schedules are unpredictable because the number of responses between reinforcers varies. Telemarketers, salespeople, and slot machine players are on the schedule because they never know when the next sale or the next big win will occur. Skinner himself demonstrated the power of the schedule by showing that a hungry pigeon would peck a disc 12,000 times an hour while being rewarded on an average only every 110 pecks. And surprisingly, this is the type of reinforcement that normally produces more responses than any other schedule. Varying the intervals between reinforcers is another way of making reinforcement unpredictable. But if you want to feel appreciated, this kind of schedule is probably not the one you use. Fixed interval schedules are the most common type of payment. They reward people for the time spent on a specific task. You might have already guessed that the response rate on this schedule is very low. Even a rat in a Skinner box program for a fixed interval schedule learns that lever presses beyond the required minimum are just a waste of energy. Ironically, the 9-to-5 job is a preferred way to reward employees in business. While the design of scheduling can be a powerful technique for continuing or amplifying a specific behavior, we may still fail to recognize an important aspect of reinforcement: individual preferences for specific rewards. Experience suggests that survival is propelled by our need for food or water. However, most of us don't live in conditions of extreme scarcity, and thus the types of reinforcement appealing to us will differ. Culture plays an important role in determining effective reinforces and what's reinforced shapes culture. Offering tickets to a cricket match might serve as a powerful reward for someone in a country where cricket is a big deal, but would be meaningless to most Americans. Similarly, an air-conditioned office might be a powerful incentive for employees in Indonesia, but what matters much to employees in a more temperate area. And what about punishment? So far, we've talked about positive reinforcement, the carrot, if you will. However, there's also a stick. There's no doubt that our society relies heavily on threat and punishment as a way to keep ourselves in line. Still, we keep arriving late, forgetting birthdays, and receiving parking lot fines, even though we know there's the potential to be punished. There are several reasons that punishment might not be the best way to alter someone's behavior. First of all, Skinner observed that the power of punishment to suppress behavior usually disappears when the threat of punishment is removed. And that's a good one. That's an important one, because you don't want that's like, there's that fine line with the U.S. government becoming too authoritarian, right? Too controlling, because they had to keep doing that. Otherwise, people are just going to revert back to their natural behavior. All right. I'm going to keep going. Sorry for the segue. Indeed, we all refrain from using social networks during hours when we know our boss is around, and we similarly adhere to the speed limit when we know we are being watched by a police patrol. Second, punishment often triggers a fight or flight response and renders us aggressive. When punished, we seek to flee from further punishment, and when the escape is blocked, we may become aggressive. This punishment-aggression link may also explain why abusing parents come from abusing families themselves. Third, punishment inhibits the ability to learn new and better responses. Punishment leads to a variety of responses, such as escape, aggression, and learned helplessness, none of which aid in the subject's learning process. Punishment also fails to show subjects what exactly they must do and instead focuses on what not to do. This is why environments that forgive failure are so important in the learning process. Finally, punishment is often applied unequally. We are ruled by bias in our assessment of who deserves to be punished. We scold boys more often than girls, physically punish grade schoolers more often than adults, and control members of racial minorities more often and more harshly than whites. What should I do instead? There are three alternatives that you can try the next time you feel tempted to punish someone. First, we already touched upon extinction. A response will usually diminish or disappear if it ceases to produce the rewards it once did. However, it is important that all punishment reinforcements are withheld. This is far more difficult to do in real life than in a lab setting. What makes it especially difficult is that during the extinction process, organisms tend to look for novel techniques to obtain reinforcement. This means that a whining child will either redouble her efforts or change tactics to regain the parent's attention before ceasing behavior. In this case, a better extinction strategy is to combine methods by withholding attention after whining occurs and rewarding more desirable behaviors with attention before the whining occurs. If you're a parent, you'll probably be more familiar with the strategies that you use. Or if you have pets too, dogs particularly. If you train your dog. The second alternative is positively reinforcing preferred activities. For example, people who exercise regularly and enjoy it might use a daily run as a reward for getting other tasks done. Similarly, young children learn to sit by being rewarded with occasional permission to run around and make noise. The main principle of this idea is that preferred activities, such as running around, can be used to reinforce a less preferred activity. This idea is also called the Pumac principle. Finally, prompting and shaping are two actions that we can use together to change behavior in an iterative manner. A prompt is a cue or stimulus that encourages the desired behavior. When shaping begins, any approximation of the target response is reinforced. Once you see the approximation occur regularly, you can make the criterion for the target more strict. The actual behavior has to match the desired behavior more closely, and you continue narrowing the criteria until the specific target behavior is performed. This tactic is often the preferred method of developing a habit gradually and of training animals to perform a specific behavior. I hope that you're now better equipped to recognize incentives as powerful forces shaping the way we and others behave. Next time you wish someone would change the way they behave, think about changing their incentives. Like any parent, I experiment with my kids all the time. One of the most effective things I do when one of them has misbehaved is to acknowledge my child's feelings and ask him what he was trying to achieve. When one kid hits another, for example, I ask him what he was trying to accomplish. Usually the response is, he hit me, so I hit him back. I know this touches on an automatic human response that many adults can't control, which makes me wonder, how can I change my kid's behavior to be more effective? So you were angry and you wanted him to know, yes, people are not for hitting. If you want, I'll help you go tell him why you're angry. Tension dissipate. And I'm hopefully starting to get my kids thinking about effective and ineffective ways to achieve their goals. Punishment works best to prevent actions, whereas incentives work best to encourage them. Let's end with an excellent piece of advice that's been given regarding incentives. Here's Charlie Munger speaking at the University of South California commencement. You do not want to be in a perverse incentive system that's causing you to behave more and more foolishly, or worse and worse. Incentives are too powerful a control over human cognition or human behavior. If you're in one of these systems, I don't have a solution for you. You'll have to figure it out for yourself, but it's a significant problem. And I think that's important right there, right? Because the system that we have going on with the government and incentivizing vaccines is kind of, it's foolish, it's bad, it's a problem. I mean, it's it's a good way to manipulate people, right? If the incentive is you need to get more money, and the reason why you need to get more money is because, well, the system shut down, so you can't get money the way you did because, well, you can't go to work, you can't get work. And why can't you get work? Well, they shut it down. Oh, well, the idea is they shut it down because of this COVID-19 or whatever, right? This pandemic. So they want you to get a vaccine that you don't need or want, by giving you an incentive. And I think most people are going to take that incentive rather than a punishment. I mean, eventually they may go, they may be a law or that supports, like, if you don't get the COVID-19 vaccine, you're going to get fired because it's too much of a health risk. Same thing with public education with schools. I'm sorry, your kid cannot go to our school because too much of a health risk. So you're going to see punishments occur, but it's more of a negative reinforcement rather than real punishment. Punishment would be, you don't get vaccinated, well, you're going to go to prison, something like that. So yeah, I think most people won't get COVID-19 vaccinations. They don't need it. They don't want it. There's currently no punishment for not getting it. The reason why people will isn't to protect themselves from COVID-19 or others. They'll get it because, hey, they'll get a $200 gift card if they get it, right? It's like $200 gift cards. Eventually they're not going to have enough money for people to get the vaccine. And I think there's actually the government incentives for corporations to getting the vaccine. I didn't do an extensive search on it, But let's see. Government incentive corporations vaccine. I wonder if that's gonna be something. So I don't really see anything yet. I thought I did, but since I can't find it, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not there. But sometimes, just like states, right? Certain states will get federal aid if they abide by a certain ruling or law or legislation or something. Government federal aid states. Right. Let's see. So that's there. Oh, like the stimulus, right? Some people won't get their stimulus unless they do their taxes, right? So federal states vaccines. I don't think they've done that yet, but I wouldn't rule it out soon. I mean, the reason why is like I don't understand why certain communities, let's see, like LA firefighters, let's see. There was, yeah, Nichols Hills was right below. Offers incentives for city employees. It's like, why, like, where are they getting that? What's the incentive for the city to get it? Usually there's like a federal budget or state budget that allocates down to like counties and cities. If you get this done, hey, you guys can get bonus funding, and so that's what they do. So there's incentives, and it just kind of keeps filtering down. Like I would say, even though we can't find it easily, right? I'll wager that more digging and whatever, Dollar General will get an incentive from the government if their employees have the COVID-19 vaccination. There's going to be certain incentives for it. I mean, we've seen hospitals get incentives for if they have COVID-19 patients, they get more money from the government. So we see that's the thing that even for people who go like, you should get vaccinated, especially for COVID-19. You don't want to get people killed, moral persuasion, which isn't going to work. Or you don't want to die, do you? Those types of things. So I mean, it's all you have to do is say, well, the incentive to get it is just to not die from COVID-19. But yeah, so I haven't died. No one I know has died from it. People I know who said they tested positive for COVID-19, they're alive, right? And then of course you're going to see the vaccine and the news and the government and whatever going, oh no, there's a new strain. It's a different strain. It's going to be COVID-21, COVID-22. It keeps changing, so you're going to need to keep getting vaccines. If you don't get vaccines, it's going to keep mutating. We're going to keep the lockdown going, etc., etc., etc. And there's going to be all these incentives and then all these punishments that will eventually happen. You know, it's like a. I find it funny. It's like a. How can we do a social credit system that's not like a communist social credit system like China? How can we do one that's more democracy based, you know, like a non-communist based of a of a social credit system? Um, so many topics that can get in on. Even with the cryptocurrency, Bitcoin going up. My thought is the reason why it's going up so high is that the bonuses for mining it is gonna run out soon. So who knows what's gonna happen in that case? Most people may leave pretty soon, and just start mining something else. What happens when no one runs the Bitcoin blockchain? Well, then all your transactions take forever because the ledger is just too long to handle with just the small. There's gonna be so many people trying to make Bitcoin transactions. There's just not a lot of compute power for that to be done. Slows to a crawl. Pretty much everyone wants to keep it going. To get their cryptocurrency out, the amount of that the price of the cryptocurrency Bitcoin will just drop, or it will just become worthless. So people just get whatever they can out of it. And next thing you know, you got a second cryptocurrency that rises. Then that worries people because, hey, that cryptocurrency is going to go the same way as Bitcoin. So you got this crazy system going because, well, what happened with Bitcoin is going to happen with another cryptocurrency when they're going to be running out of incentives. The reason for mining cryptocurrencies, the incentives of getting a return on using your computer power and energy in order to get the transactions going. So incentives is a big thing, right? Most people won't get COVID-19 vaccinations. The reason why they're trying to get people to get them is to incentivize it, because obviously people aren't taking it just because they fear this whole COVID-19 situation. It's interesting. It'll be interesting where things go, because I think I'm starting to take the idea of, man, things are bad, but it's not bad enough for things to change. Let's make it as bad as it can, right? It's like government become authoritarian. I want the U.S. government to become so authoritarian and bad, right? Because then we can actually finally have a revolution and and get all the corruption out, and just, you know, have it all structured smaller. I mean, it's the United States, but it's like forced to keep those states together. It's like each state being, like, originally was their own sovereign nation. It should be the same thing. You know, it was based on population. Smaller populations easier to govern themselves, etc. I think that's just the way it should go again. And people, I don't know. It is, it's mind blowing. It's funny because when I talk to Americans about how, well, we just need another revolution, you know, just get rid of everything, because obviously it's doing the same thing over and over again. Obviously ain't working, and it's crazy. And people go, people will die. What are you talking about? We don't want to kill people. We don't hurt people. It's like, people are dying now. People are getting hurt. And we are a nation that was founded on a revolutionary war. Revolution is in the American soil, I guess you could say. So it just boggles my mind when people are going, no, don't talk about revolution. It's like, this country was founded on a revolution, you fool. I don't like saying fool too much. But you know what I'm talking about. It's like, hey, you know, all right, keep doing your thing. Keep doing what you've been doing and what everyone else has been doing and hasn't been working. Let's just keep doing the same thing. Yeah, come on. People don't like hearing that either. It's like, well, what are you doing? It's like, well, I'm just trying to get people. Well, first, I don't care. In the end, it's like, yeah, I'll just live the way I want. People don't like it, they can kill me. It's like, I'm waiting for it. It's like at a certain point in your life, and I mean, this kind of gets to the whole Gnosticism, agnosticism type of thing. It's like how good is your life? How good has it been? You see it getting better, you know, all these things is like, I mean, aside from a few people I want to stay alive for, it's like, if I died now or died tomorrow, died whenever, or someone came to get me and to kill me, you know, it's like, you know, for me, of course, I'd want to go out fighting. It's just the way I am. But yeah, I'd be like, about time. It's like, hey, you're gonna come and arrest me? You know, I'm not gonna let you take me. You're gonna have to kill me. It's like, I'm looking forward to it. Are they looking forward to it? I doubt it. But it's just like, you know, what's the point of living in a world you don't like? What's the point of fighting for the scraps or fighting for the people you don't like? Who's Denise ER528? Probably just some Zoom bombarder. It's like they don't have a. They could, like, Kaylee, another guest. I don't know who that is. But you know what I do like? I like having the zoom up, just because it seems like a lot of people watch my videos, my live streams, just to do a zoom bomb, even if there's nobody watching to observe the zoom bomb occurring. All right. So that's it. That's my video. It's like why most people won't get COVID-19 vaccinations. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. You would need to incentivize people to get vaccinated if they really needed or wanted to get vaccinated. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, it's imagine you have choice for two jobs. One is being a garbage man. The other is being a city council member or something like that, right? It's like, well, and they pay the same amount. You're gonna be like, well, I'd rather be the city councilman rather than the garbage man. So most people would be like, dude, you do the garbage. I'll do this. I'll do the city council stuff. I'll sit in the office and, you know, a nice smelling office. But right, you incentivize people to become garbage men by paying more than the city councilman. It's like, oh, well, now people would rather choose going to becoming a garbage man than working as a city council. That's incentives, right? Of course, nowadays it's like, well, it's actually the opposite for that, because people would rather be the city councilman and they get paid more than a garbage man. So there's some people who would rather be a garbage man than not have any money and not get any money at all. So of course they have positions like that available. All right, that's it. I keep talking too much. Let's see. Stream has been going for. That's weird. Usually it shows how long I've been streaming for, but it's not showing right now. Give me a second. Aha. It's just been clipped by something. So, been going for about 45 minutes. Now is a good time to end it. My next live stream video is gonna be on on some, there's the RC Rayner, right? There's this Ali Murkravendi, who's some obscure Iranian who learned English and wrote some things. And one of the manuscripts that didn't get published, I mean, it was supposedly pretty long. And this R.C. Rayner, this British fellow who's, I don't know about the guy. I probably wouldn't like the guy, based on some of the things I read about him. But still, he tried to do a big review on the manuscript that this Ali Murkravendi did, and it's either somewhat Zoroastrian or it's also kind of very Gnostic. It follows the whole Gnostic idea, and a passage from it. My goodness, the passage from it is just incredible. So, Flight Accord Music says, because they are healthy. Why most people won't get COVID-19 vaccinations? Well, because they are healthy. Yeah. Gist of it is right there. So yeah, I thought that was a very good good thing that I wanted to just kind of reveal to people. I mean, it just seems so obscure. There's no videos on it. There's almost no articles on it. You pretty much just, like, I just kind of happened upon it. I don't know how I happened upon it. It's like, wow, I wanted to see the actual manuscript, but since that manuscript didn't get published, I just had to go off by what this Rayner said about it and go from there. And then we can just look at the description of it, and oh my goodness, it's just incredible. There's even a couple quotes from like the Bible that I'll probably use, and just kind of how you can just see how things are, whether it's through nature or just through people or just whatever it is. It's like, do we live in a good world or do we live in a bad world? Do we live in a good world with a lot of bad people in it, or do we live in a bad world with some good people in it, or whatever? It's like, that's kind of the whole duality aspect of Christianity as it is now, and the early Christianity that was trying to gain to establish itself versus the Gnostic Christians or the Gnostics and Zoroastrians, and a whole bunch of stuff where it's like the world and the God is good, or the world and the God is bad, right? And this whole balance, fighting thing, good versus evil, light versus dark, etc. And then you look around, it's like all these wars still occurring. You got poverty, homeless, you've got disease, you've got people just being horrible to each other, horrible to animals, horrible to the environment. You've got like nature doesn't really care about the pain. Like, as far as we see, like, nature, animals, carnivores, when sometimes they'll eat their prey alive, right? That doesn't seem very cool. We see just a lot of messed up things, but we also see a lot of nice things, good things. We see sometimes we see predators actually being nice to prey, especially babies. We see animals from different species becoming friends, and a whole bunch of things like that. And so there's some good here. Obviously there's some bad. So which is it? Or is it still a occurring theme for, like, the battle that occurs. And so that'll kind of be the segue within the next video, because it dives heavily into just something that I've been really mulling over a lot, because I mean, if you're gonna be evil and cause harm to people, you're gonna act like you're the good guy, you're the nice guy, that you're helping them. And that if someone figures out that you're actually harming them, you go, well, that person's a liar, right? So very evil people are gonna pretend to be very good, and then very good people are just gonna be very good people. And so that whole quote of like, you know, judge a person by the fruits, right? Things like that. Obviously, there's going to be just so much that occurs for someone who's bad and a bad person. You know, it's going to be you're going to easily see that they're just dropping like nasty droppings of, you know, bad rotten apples and all that stuff. So, accusing people who have, you know, are always standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves, or even stand up for themselves, value freedom over slavery, love over hate, right? All these things, and it's really easy to figure out who's good, who's bad, who's lying, who's telling the truth, all that stuff. But when we take it into a bigger picture, it's like, you know, all the stories of certain religions and their gods, or God, it's like, it doesn't make sense, right? That it's that depiction is good. It's like, what? Since what? And also, one of the things that I like to talk about, that no one really asked this question to, is like the Christian God, before Jesus. What was God doing? And then they'll go, well, the Old Testament, that's what God was doing. All right, and then before the Old Testament, what was God doing? Because there's still religion out there that predates Christianity, even the Judaism, really. So it's like, well, they can't use their imagination. They won't give an answer because they go, I don't know. It's like, could that God have been just still doing its stuff, but taking different forms, different names? Can you think of any religions out there, or do you just start at Christianity and go from there? So, you know, all that stuff. I don't like to pick on Christians too much, because there's a lot of other religions that are pretty misguided, but still, it's the majority, right? That's why I'm kind of going out there. It's like, it's the ruling religion, the religion that has taken over a lot more land, I guess, depopulated more indigenous people than any other religion out there. But that doesn't mean that other religions did do that as well. It's just the more peaceful religions and spiritual people didn't survive. Obviously, you know, if you have a empire versus a peaceful nation, well, that empire is probably going to take over that peaceful nation. You've got a religion full of aggressive religious people who like to fight and wage wars against very peaceful, spiritual, religious people. Most likely, you know what the end result's going to be, and the written history that you see is obviously supporting of what you're conclusions would be. Anyways, stay tuned for that. Sorry I segued for like the last 10 minutes on that, but it's just things that just what I'm thinking of, just because I don't do a lot of videos anymore. But some of the things I do find is like, hey, I think y'all should read this, see this for yourself, and think of it what you will. This is what I think. Anyways, have a good night and see you later today, because it's 2 a.m. here. It's the 14th. All right, bye.